Hey everybody, it's Bobby Constantino here. I've tagged a bunch of people on this live video who are friends and colleagues and loved ones of Tina Campos, Tina Campos. Haven't talked to a lot of you in a while since the old Barb's days, so I miss you all. Sorry to have to come to you today to do this broadcast given the circumstances, but there's something happening out on the West Coast with someone that we all know and love, and so I'm doing this video today to ask all of you for your help in correcting what has become a pretty sloppy and almost incredibly irresponsible official narrative that's come out about Tina. This is a private post for now. It's only for the people that were invited. So I did that because the comment sections in a lot of the articles that had come out about this incident regarding Tina have been awful and brutal, and a lot of that is directly as a result of the sloppy reporting and, you know, the failure of anyone really to look into the official police narrative here and point out the fact that there are a lot of glaring holes and inconsistencies and things that just don't make sense. And I think that what this illustrates is the danger in what happens when the media just, you know, blindly parrots and regurgitates the official law enforcement narrative on cases that involve police misconduct against civilians. And we see this happening constantly in cases where people are, you know, hurt, harmed, or even killed or had their rights violated. We see newspapers instead attacking the victim of the police brutality rather than looking into the official police account and saying, whoa, let's slow this down here, because the things that they're saying aren't credible at all, and we should be examining both sides of the story if we're really going to do our jobs as journalists. So there's a few more people tuning in. Again, I did this privately. I did it as an invite only because there's been so many trolls on all of the columns and the articles that have come out about this, and so I wanted this to sort of be a place where we could talk without interference of people who are going to try and disrupt the conversation, who are going to say horrible things. Because in sending out this information to all of you, I noticed that a lot of you were really upset about what you saw and about what happened to Tina, and I know that you all love her very much, and I've conveyed that to her. I would ask that not everyone bombard her with messages and emails and calls and things. First of all, it's pretty early still on the West Coast. And second of all, she's still reeling a bit from all of this. I definitely know that she's in great, capable legal hands. The legal community in Portland has been awesome. But definitely please don't bombard her. I will definitely send love and all your messages along to her. All right, so I'm going to get started now. Once we've completed this sort of review of the video and the documents and the evidence, what I'm asking is that everyone who's participating in this will use this information to then put some pressure on news outlets to actually cover this story accurately in a fair way that reflects what really happened, instead of just doing what the publications so far have done, which is take the law enforcement narrative at face value and smear Tina's reputation basically all over the internet. So this all started a couple weeks ago. I got a call from Tina. I'm an attorney, and I also am a friend of Tina's. In addition to doing teaching and other things, I often work in the service industry at restaurants and bartending things for extra money. That's how I met Tina. We worked together at a restaurant in Crown Heights, and that's actually how I met a lot of you as well who know and love her. She called me and said, you know, I had an incident where the cops beat me up. They gave me a black eye. They slammed me on the ground. They put a hobble on me, which is something that ties my hands and my wrists together, and my wrists are swollen twice the size. I missed my flight to Florida to see my mother. I haven't been able to work because of my injuries and so forth, and I was just, you know, as many of you have been hearing this, it was just devastating. What's even more incredible is that she proceeded to tell me that the police had charged her with 5 felony counts of assault on a peace officer, which are, you know, this is a very serious criminal charges. And, you know, to anyone that knows Tina, you know, I'm obviously biased, and I'll admit that straight up. That's a disclaimer. I know her, I love her, and I know that this is completely out of character with who she is. She's not a violent person. She's not belligerent. She's not rude. She's sweet, she's kind, and she's creative. And so right off the bat, I'm thinking to myself, you know, having worked in law enforcement and been around for a while and handled thousands of cases like this, my alarm bells are instantly saying something doesn't already seem right. But let me wait. And so I spoke to some lawyers behind the scenes. We got Tina some great lawyers. We got the video of the incident. We got the police reports and all of the information. They're handling the legal case. She has a very, very good legal case, and her attorneys thus far have done excellent work. They've been super supportive of her, responsive and great. So that's really good news. And then so I posted some things on social media, but I didn't use her name because we were sort of waiting to see how the reporters that covered it would cover it. And unfortunately, it's been a complete disaster, and that's why I'm here to ask for your help in correcting this narrative. And so here we go. We're going to get into it now. So I'm going to turn the camera around back and forth between me and my computer so you can see what I'm looking at so that I can talk about it. Yeah, some of you are saying bring them on camera, so I'm doing that right now. So here we go. Here's the first article. It's from KATU2, which is a news station, and it says, "On your side. Police. Woman arrived for flight a day early and attacked a Port of Portland officer." That sounds pretty bad, right? Not only is she the aggressor in this situation who appears from this headline to have attacked a Port of Portland officer without provocation, but if you go through and you read the article, a woman erupted into a fit of anger and injured a Port of Portland officer. And she's so dumb, according to them, that she showed up on the wrong day for her flight. She began arguing, screaming, yelling profanities, more agitated, and eventually, because of this, they took her into custody, beat the crap out of her, and put her in a hobble. All right, this is according to the KATU On Your Side News 2. Unfortunately, there's no name of any journalist here. It's just done by their news bureau and so forth. And then I'm going to turn this around again. Here's another article from the Oregonian. Airport police used excessive force, hobble hold, Portland woman says. So she's claiming that this happened, but the paper is clearly distancing themselves from this. And then if you go on to read, you can see the booking photo there where you can see her injury. She has a black eye and some marks on her forehead, in addition to multiple other injuries that I mentioned. The officers basically claim that she's arguing, swearing, unruly, and she's so incapacitated, she's so intoxicated that she is unable to care for herself. And then you'll see here that this mentions that the incident was captured on airport security video. So where are these reporters getting this idea that she's swearing and so intoxicated and belligerent and attacking these officers from? Where is this, sort of story coming from? So here is this police video, the surveillance video from the airport that was released by the Oregonian. And again, for those of you that love Tina, this is going to be hard to watch. But it's really, really important to watch this video because it shows a lot of things that we are going to have to talk about today as we work through this together. All right, so here's the video. Pardon my shaking. See if I can rest it there. If you look at that, she's swaying pretty aggressively there, right? It looks like she can barely stand up on her own 2 feet. Yeah, man, this video seems to corroborate that story, that she's pretty messed up. Except, did you see that right there? Did you see those people walk by? Wait a second. Look at that. Look how fast they're going, right? Why are those people walking so fast? Right? I'm watching this video and I'm thinking, all right, I guess she was pretty messed up because here she is like rocking back and forth. It looks like she's pretty belligerent and she's aggressively posturing with the officers. If you're looking at this video, you could think, well, you know what? I don't know, maybe. I mean, they didn't have to beat her up. There's never a circumstance where, 3 grown men who are twice her size need to slam her on the ground, is there? There's never a situation where they need to give her all these injuries and rough her up like that. But, however, maybe she was a little messed up. But then come to find out, which is what I was looking at this video and I'm watching this and saying something's not right. And then I watch these bystanders go by and they're flying by at 3 times the normal speed. And so I said, that's just weird, right? Automatically my alarm bells are going off. And so what I did is I got a hold of the police report and I read it. And then I figured out where, the Oregonian is getting this information about how she's yelling and belligerent and why they're using this video. So you read through this police report and listen to this, right? She's loudly cursing and arguing, crying and yelling, highly agitated while talking and cursing, making wide hand motions, continued to yell, right?
This is why they're taking her into custody, they're claiming, right? And this goes on and on. Who was yelling loudly at the officers before, this is all before they took her into custody. This is why, right? Continuing to yell, curse loudly. I observed her crying and would switch between crying and yelling in anger within seconds, right? And then she threw her boarding pass and her ID at Officer Byrd, and that's the moment when they grabbed her and took her into custody. Now, if you watch that video that I just showed you, right, and I'll do it one more time real quickly, just so you can see how messed up this is. Again, here we go. Right there, looks like she's like gesturing and aggressively posturing, right? She's right here, looks like she's swaying, she can barely stand up, she's teetering, it looks like, right? And then again, watch these bystanders go by, phew, right? They're flying by. Here's why this is extremely problematic, and this is something that I need all of you who are Tina's friends and anyone who actually cares about accurate journalism in the way that, you know, police are, you know, confronted with how they commit misconduct of civilians. Anyone who cares about this stuff has to put their foot down and insist that this is insane, and here's why. Okay, because I'm going to show you the video now that's at actual speed. And when I play this video for you, I want you to remember the words of these officers. And I want you to be on the lookout during this video if what they're saying is what you're seeing here. Because this is the real video, the actual speed video, the one that the Oregonian did not release, right? So thousands upon thousands of people have seen that first video that makes it look like she's wasted, rocking back and forth, and she can barely stand, right? And so they're, you know, destroying her on all the comments on social media. They're filling her inbox with hate messages. They're calling her work and leaving awful messages because the reporter used the name of where she works, right? And they're all looking at this video that seems to corroborate this police narrative, and everyone's saying, yeah, this is ridiculous. How can she claim excessive force? She deserved what she got, right? And then you come to find out that that's not the actual video. So again, here's the language of the report. Loudly cursing and arguing, crying and yelling, highly agitated while talking and cursing, making wide hand motions, continued to yell, okay? That's the one officer's thing. And then the other guy comes in and piles on. Yelling loudly at the officers. Again, this is all right before the arrest. This is why they're taking her in, right? Continued to yell and curse loudly, crying and switching between crying and yelling within seconds, waving her hands around, and then throws her boarding pass and ID at the officer, okay? Now we're going to watch the video in real speed, and I want you to keep an eye out for that language in this video, okay? Watch. Here we go. I have no idea why it's taking so long to switch. Sorry about that. But here we go. Ready? Way different. She's upset. Right there, watch. Ridiculous, she says. Not a lip reader, but it's pretty clear. She's upset because they're telling her she's going to miss her flight. She's getting taken in. Right here. She realizes she's getting arrested. Watch very carefully. See what she just did there? She says right there it's bullshit. Right? Because they're telling they're arresting her. Now I'm going to slow this down because I want to just go back for a second, okay? So, first of all, I don't see any screaming there, right? When you're screaming and yelling, you can see your teeth, you can see your tongue, right? You can see the lines of your face creased, right? You can tell noticeably, visibly when someone's screaming. They've written, 7 or 8 times in these reports that she's screaming and cursing so loudly that she's unable to take care of herself, and she's clearly a danger to herself and others. And that video right there shows something very, very, very different. Does it not? Right? And so it is unconscionable that the Oregonian would leave that video up, that first one up, for more than 24 hours. It's the first time anyone has written about this incident, and just, wildly irresponsible thing to do to leave that video there, because it's prejudicing the entire jury pool in the city of Portland against her before they've even, heard about the case, right? And people are seeing this and watching this and saying, oh yeah, made up my mind about that case. It's incredibly irresponsible journalism. And then they issued a correction saying we released an earlier video which was slightly sped up. But if you watch this video, they never then say, and by the way, the actual speed video shows something very, very different from what the police have reported. All right, and this is why it is so important that we put pressure on them to begin to report these things critically and analytically, and to look at the evidence and to see what the evidence shows. So I'm going to go back to this video now, and I'm going to walk through a couple of things which I think show you that what the police are saying is complete nonsense, right? The guy says he sees her throw her boarding pass at the officer. So I'm going to go back around and we're going to review that section of the video real quick. All right, here we go. I want you to watch very carefully, right? Watch what she does right here. He puts her boarding pass down, for starters, right there. So the other officer is already either mistaken or lying, right? He's trying to embellish the story to make it sound like she did worse things than she did. But look, she's watching him put her boarding pass onto her bag. She's spotting where her bag is. They've already told her they're taking her in, right? So watch what she does. She takes her license, and she puts her license right on her bag. She plops it down on her bag with her boarding pass. Trying to flip this back around. Why would she do that? Right? She didn't throw it at the officer, clearly, right? And so, you don't have any of the reporters from any of the newspapers pointing that out and saying, oh, look at this. There's another discrepancy in the police report. That's troubling, right? This is a two-page police report, and we've already found 2 or 3 glaring, inconsistencies with what the thing shows. She didn't throw her boarding pass at him. She didn't even throw her license at him. She put it down on her bag. Now, the reason why it's so significant that she does that is because they're claiming to take her into custody because she's so incapacitated that she can't care for herself, right? I work at bars. I know a lot of you work at bars. When someone is so incapacitated that they can't take care of themselves, right? They're falling over. They're not aware of their surroundings. They're knocking over bar stools, right? Here she has the presence of mind to look at what he's doing with his hand, which is putting her boarding pass down, to realize she wants to keep her ID with her boarding pass with her bag because they're telling her they're taking her in, and she wants her things to be with her bag so that when they collect her property, it doesn't get lost because she probably doesn't want to have to go down to the DMV and get a new license, right? So she's clearly spotting where this thing is and then throwing it down on top of it with like a perfectly placed throw, right? Clearly showing that this person is not so incapacitated that they can't function or take care of themselves. And that's why this is absolutely absurd, right? Because nobody from any of those newspapers that wrote about this bothered to mention that there's a glaring inconsistency there. First of all, with what the police officer wrote, which is that she threw the ID at him, right? And the second one is that she's too incapacitated to care for herself when she's, first of all, sitting here having a conversation with these officers clearly back and forth. Second of all, she's clearly not yelling. She's not swaying. She's just upset because she's being told that she's going to miss her flight home to see her family, and she's not going to get to see her mother, and she's being taken into custody when she works in and around alcohol. She's had a couple drinks, and she knows she's not drunk, right? They're not arresting her because she's drunk. They're arresting her because they didn't like her attitude, because she didn't want to be bothered by 3 grown-ass men who are standing around her and pinning her basically with their body position, pinning her up against the glass, right? And so they didn't like that she was saying, why are you bothering me? Please just leave me alone. That's what's really going on here, right? I want to just quickly go back to another thing that I think is extremely important before we actually get into the incident that they claim is her attacking them, because this is probably right here. I don't know why this thing is not switching back and forth, but why didn't that work? What's happening? Sorry, my technical capabilities. I really need a production team here, clearly. Woman arrived for flight a day early. Okay, so this, Jamie's saying we need you to write all this down, and I would love to, Jamie. It's just going to take me a while. And I would definitely want to do that, but I'm trying to get everybody on the same page now because this is moving really quickly, and I want all of us to be able to get this out there now. So at the end, I'll try and summarize some talking points that all of us can use. And I'm going to make this video public, so if you want to try and bookmark certain sections of it that you think are important, you can certainly share it with anyone that you think might be interested in reporting on this story fairly. But we'll come to that. All right. Woman arrived for flight a day early. Now, this is a key, extremely important piece of information because it makes it sound like she's blitzed, like she's out of her mind, right? Like she's so intoxicated that she doesn't even know what day it is. Okay. But what you need to do is look very closely at this, which is so unfortunate that reporters these days, they don't look at the police narrative and say, you know what? This doesn't make sense. This isn't quite right. Right. So if you look at the police report, this happened at almost 10 o'clock at night, at 9:45 at night. Okay, well, if her flight, first of all, was already happened, then I can say it's the wrong day, and you're suspect, right? Or if your flight is the next night, right, at 10 p.m., all right, again, you're a little bit early. But the most important thing for a start is that she's from New York. We all know what airports are like in New York, right? The airports are a shit show here, right? So, like, I've shown up to JFK or LaGuardia and literally had to wait, like, several hours just to get to the bag check, never mind to get through the TSA line. So, like, we're conditioned, for starters, as New Yorkers, to get to the airports at ridiculously early times, right? My partner's father just took a trip with his wife and son. Their flight was at 12:30 a.m. He showed up at the airport at 7:30. right? Because he just wanted to be there to make sure that everything was okay, because you just never know when it comes to New York airports. He arrived on the wrong day for his flight, right? But should that make him subject to getting, arrested and thrown on the ground and beaten up by the police? Of course not, right? So what they don't tell you is that her flight is very, very early in the morning. It's at 4:30 in the morning, right? To catch a 4:30 flight, you need to be at the airport by 3:30 or 3:30-ish, right? To be safe, okay? To get to the airport by 3:30, you need to leave your apartment by 2 or 2:30, right? To leave your apartment by 2 or 2:30, you need to be up and getting ready by probably 1 or 1:30, right? If you're going to give yourself some time to shower and everything. And so at 10 o'clock at night, if you go home, right, and you fall asleep and you got to wake up in 2 hours, you're going to be completely out of it, right? Tina's a bartender. She works nights. So she works normally from 6 or 7, 8 o'clock at night until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So she knows that if she goes home, she's going to completely fall asleep. She's not going to be able to sleep, first of all, till 2 or 3 in the morning, and then she's going to miss her flight. So what she does is she says, I'm just going to, I'm out with my friends. We're having lunch or brunch or whatever we're doing. We're having a couple of drinks. I'm just going to go home, grab my bag, go to the airport early, get there, get inside the gate, the security clearance, and then I'm just going to hang out there so I don't miss my flight. Right? The reason why this is so important is because it clearly shows that this is someone who's thinking ahead, right? She's rationally planning out the night so that she doesn't end up missing her flight. These aren't the actions of someone who's so incapacitated that she's so stupid that she doesn't know what day her flight is. These are the actions of someone who's conditioned to be at the airport at a ridiculously early time, because New York airports are insane, right? And she's showing up so she doesn't miss her flight. So something that she's doing in order to make her flight, they're using against her and portraying as if she's doing this because she's so drunk she can't even stand on her own 2 feet. And that's why I think, it's just so irresponsible for reporters to look at this kind of stuff and not present the other side and to say, wait, this police narrative, they're just writing this stuff to justify what they did in beating her up. And then it's even worse because you see these news organizations picking it up and treating her like she's an idiot, right? Someone who we know is not an idiot, who's getting there early because she's responsible, and they're portraying her as if she's some kind of dummy who doesn't know any better than to show up for the wrong day for her flight. Right? And then you have all these trolls on social media and on the comment section of these articles just dragging her through the mud. And it is literally infuriating and disgusting. And this is why I'm doing this presentation, because I need all of us to take this information and run with it to responsible reporters, responsible news outlets who will hopefully begin presenting this story, not just because of this story, but to also point out the tendency of the media to do this, which is extremely problematic, right? All right, so moving on to the most important part, and I'm sorry if this is dragging on, we're almost done here. I want to go back to the real-time video, not the sped-up video, right? Obviously, because that's the most important one to watch, because it's the most accurate paper. Jamie asked who to contact at the Oregonian. The guy who wrote it seems like a decent enough guy. His name is Shane Dixon Kavanaugh. He called me and he kind of said to me, no matter how drunk, if she was drunk, they shouldn't have done this to her. And I agreed, and that's why I actually introduced him to the attorneys and said, I think that you might want to do this story with this guy. And then, he sends me a link to the article, and here it has this sped up video that completely irresponsibly corroborates the police narrative, prejudicing her in the minds of thousands upon thousands of people. So I don't know if that was a misstep, and I will say to his credit that as soon as I brought it to his attention, he hustled up and he changed the video to the right one. But he might be someone to contact. Shane Dixon Kavanaugh, and someone at the editorial board could also be a good person to contact. But I don't know if they're going to correct it, because they told them about it, and what they wrote was, disclaimer, an early version of the video showed the incidents at a slightly higher rate of speed. To me, that's just, dramatically understating, the significance of how much that fast video misportrayed the incident total. Yes, Jamie, this is exactly what I want us to do. I don't know who to contact at some of these other publications, but this is what I want us to do together, all of us, because you need a lot of people to do something like that. But it's start to contact people at Jezebel, The Root, the Griot, all these other organizations and news sites that cover these issues, usually fairly, with an analysis that represents both sides instead of just doing what the police say. So anyways, we'll get to that at the end. Again, I want to go to the last section of this video because it's extremely, extremely important. It's the most important thing of all, and this is what we need to focus on, because it shows that this arrest never should have happened in the first place in terms of the charges of assault on a police officer. Okay? So, I'm going to go back to the regular speed video. I'm going to put it to the part, I'm going to flip this around again. And I know that the volume changes a little bit sometimes when these things go. So I'm sorry about that. Sure wish I had a better technological capability here. So I'm pressing play. This is the real-time video. Again, you can see her say it's ridiculous. Spots her bag. Puts her license on the bag. This bullshit right there, she says, because they tell her they're taking her in. She's not going to get to go see her mom. Now watch. Slow it down right here. All right. So I want to go back real quick because I want to show you something that's extremely important. I want you to watch this big guy to her left, right? Twice her size, easy, right? This guy's a beefcake, right? Watch this. I want you to watch what he does when he's taking her legs behind her back. Now, ask yourself, first of all, is she trying to flee? Is she trying to run away? Or is she in danger of harming another person, like physical assault and battery, a third party? Because those are the requirements that you need in Oregon to use excessive force, that the police need to justify excessive force, okay? Ask yourself, is she running away, or is another third party that she's beating up at risk so that they need to use excessive force to stop her, okay? Watch the big guy on the left, this guy right here. Watch this. Watch what he does with his right foot, and then watch what he does with his hands. Plants his right foot. Watch him turn up her arm. You see him turn up her arm right there? Did you see that? So again, I want you to watch this. Watch him get his positioning. Watch him plant. Oh, it's not far enough. Sorry. So watch him plant his right foot. Right here. Plant. And then watch him turn her arm up. Do you see that? Flipping this around. Did you see that? He takes her arm at that moment, plants all of his weight to get a good grip on it, right? She's not trying to run away there. She's just standing there. There's 3 grown men with their hands on her. I'm sorry, but do 3 grown men need to use that amount of force to take her into custody? It's like, give me a break here. Use your common sense, right? And not a single reporter has pointed that out, right? They charged her with assault and battery on a peace officer. Felony counts, right? There's an update on that, which I'll get to in a minute. But at the beginning, they charged her with felony counts, okay? Now, what that video shows me is this officer planting his right foot, getting all of his weight behind what he's about to do, and twisting her arm up behind her back into the small of her back like he's going to dislocate her shoulder. And in that situation, what you do if you don't position your body like she does when you move forward to release the pressure, right, you get your shoulder dislocated. So she's obviously in excruciating pain at that moment because this psychopath is about to rip her arm off, right, who's twice her friggin' size. So she moves forward to get... I know, Anita, I know, it is hard to watch because it's insane, right? Pins her arm up behind her back like he's going to, dislocate her shoulder. And then when she moves forward in pain, she then kicks back at him to push him away from her, right? So that the force that he's applying, right, will be mitigated. And that is what is so important here, because if any of these reporters, and this is why I'm so pissed off, because any of these reporters that have an internet connection and a Google search bar can go to Google Scholar and look up and I did this. I'm even going to turn this around and show you, right? So easy to do. It's just so simple. Self-defense against excessive use of force during arrest in Oregon courts, right? 50 friggin' cases come up, right? All of which say that a civilian in Oregon, in the state of Oregon, that is being subject to excessive force unnecessarily, right, is allowed to use reasonable force in self-defense. Which means that under the law of the state of Oregon, that the Supreme Court has upheld, in that situation where he's about to rip her arm off, she has every single legal right in the world to use reasonable force against him doing that, against having her shoulder dislocated. And that is exactly what you see in that video, and yet not a single one of these journalists pointed that out. I used to be an assistant district attorney, right? And granted, the climate when I was an ADA was very different than the one that it is now. But nowadays, like, you're seeing district attorneys like Larry Krasner in Philly saying, this kind of stuff is bullshit and it can't stand, right? And so when you get these cases as an ADA in the arraignment session, you need to look your officers right in the eye and say, sorry, buddy, not today. This case is not proceeding, because what I see on that video shows that she has every legal justification and every single right to use reasonable force to defend herself. And yet you have these articles, both in the Oregonian and the KATU one and the dozens of other locals that have cited that, watching that original video and concluding that she's a violent psychopath who aggressively attacked this officer because she showed up for her flight on the wrong day. right? And that, when you try and reconcile it with all of the things that we see on this video, is worse than a gross mischaracterization of justice. It's just flat out ridiculous and untrue, and it absolutely does not correspond with what the video shows. The evidence there is, unequivocal. It's clear as day. And yet here we have all of these, district attorney piling on charges, and then you have these news outlets running with it, right? Like this is some crazy thing that happened, when that's not the case at all. Now, one last update on this is that at the arraignment, the district attorney's office reduced all of the charges to misdemeanors and dismissed them all except one. Now, as a former prosecutor, that makes my bullshitometer go into red alert, right? Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I know it is, because those cops love and need to have those charges against people they beat up, because it protects them later from civil liability. And so they hate it, and I mean hate it, when people who are, in the DA's office look at the charges and dismiss them, right? Because it's a clear signal to the court that this is bullshit. So the fact that that already happened, to me, leads me to believe that the DA's office is already suspect. And so that's why I'm asking all of us that love and know Tina, and that actually care about the rule of law, and that care about how incidents of police misconduct are, portrayed in the media. That's why I'm asking all of you and all of us to go public with this, right? You don't have to use this video. You don't need to share this video. This is a private video, but I need you to use this information. You're welcome to share it if you want to, but that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to educate all of us that are Tina's friends, and all of the people that I know that care about, the way that these, victims of police misconduct are being portrayed in the media, because I want us to begin right now to share this information on social media, right? Write your own posts, right? This video clearly shows illegal use of force, right? This video clearly shows this person's not screaming, yelling. The police report is perjury, right? This video clearly shows she did not toss her license at this officer. Another case of, egregious, exaggeration in the police report, bordering on misstatement or filing a false report, right? This person did not show up on the wrong day for her flight. She showed up early because she was being responsible and she wanted to make sure she caught her flight, right? This person wasn't so drunk that she didn't know what day it was, because here she is spotting her bag and, dropping her ID perfectly on top of it, because she wants her things to be kept together so that she can retrieve them after these officers illegally take her into custody. This is someone who's, showing foresight and the ability to think things through, not someone who can't even stand on her own 2 feet and that needs to be taken into custody to protect herself. Okay, so I want us to begin sharing all of that information on social media, and correcting this narrative. I want us to call the district attorney's office in Multnomah County and put pressure on them to dismiss these cases, because the case law in Oregon shows that what she did was absolutely reasonable under the law in Oregon, and all of the other, abuse and misconduct that they committed afterwards, was part and parcel to that original incident where they tackled her on the ground, right? They put her in a hobble and beat the crap out of her. Her wrists were swollen so big that she couldn't go to work, right? She missed this trip home to visit her mother, who she hadn't seen. Like, this isn't just some little thing. She's been traumatized by this incident, like shaken up for a couple of weeks now. She's getting harassing calls at work, right? And she has to, huddle with her managers to make sure that they can handle this properly. Like, because of the way that these news outlets have mischaracterized this, and because of how they've refused and failed to do their jobs, which is to look at this from all sides and say, what I'm seeing here doesn't line up with the official police narrative, and holding the police accountable when they make these statements of facts. All right, so what I'm asking that everyone on this post does is go into, your social media, go into your email accounts, do the things that you do, and share this information. Contact people at different news outlets, find out who the editorial board members are. I'm going to do the same, but I need all of us to do it, because, if one or two of us just do it, it's not going to work. It's usually these things happen because a lot of people say together, collectively, this is not okay. I'm going to make this video available after we're done. You're welcome to use it as a guide. You don't have to share this one. You're welcome to just take whatever information you want from this. I'm going to try and write something up that will sort of summarize these points in detail, but it might take me a little while. But we need to start getting this information out there right now. It's really important that we correct this narrative, because as it stands, a good friend that we all know and love, and who we know would never, walk into an airport and assault a police officer, is being, smeared and dragged across the entire internet because of the irresponsible way that, this has been reported. So I'm going to thank you all for tuning in. I know that a lot of you have commented here. I don't know if I've been able to get to all of them. I'll try and go back and answer some of the questions in the comments after I post this. But thank you for tuning in. I will definitely convey all of your love and messages of support to Tina. I appreciate all of you for supporting her. I know that she loves you all dearly, and I know that you love her. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up because I know this has been hard for a lot of you to watch too. But, we love you, Tina. I don't know if you're going to watch this, but, we're going to do our best to make sure that we fix this. All right, so thanks everybody for tuning in, and until next time, peace.